Hey you guys, I'm Mickie James and you are watching The American Athlete. To go from the only female training at a wrestling school to now we have a pay-per-view dedicated solely to the women, which is awesome. Well, I started watching wrestling when I was a little girl, and I would watch it with my dad because my parents separated when I was about 2. So when I would see my dad on the weekends, or he was such an avid wrestling fan, and that was our bonding thing between my sisters and I with our father. Like, that was the thing that we would do on the weekends, is that we would watch wrestling together. And I just remember watching these characters that are so, wrestling was very different then than it is now. Like, there's definitely larger than life characters, but at that time, you know, there were like these super flamboyant, over-the-top characters. And to me, it was real. Like, I thought that those were really real people. I come from like a small town and my parents didn't have loads of money. I didn't end up getting a scholarship or anything like that. And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I was working at a bar and my friend, who also was there, he's like, you love wrestling so much. It's like, my buddy has a school, and it was a little bit outside of DC, which is like 2 hours from me. And I'm like, I had never even thought that there was such thing as a wrestling school. I just assumed that they found these people like the circus, because to me, they were like these, I'd never met them in real life. Like, I'm thinking they're like, you know, 7 foot tall and big burly men and crazy women, Scary Sherry. I'm like, I don't know. Like, these are a whole different animals of people. And then I went one day and I signed up that day, and I've been doing it ever since. The road is not for everybody. It took me 7 years before I debuted on television. It took me almost 5 years before I got signed with WWE, and I had to work my way up in the independent circuit. So I've wrestled from in front of 4 people to 90,000 people. And for a small town girl out of Virginia, like, I think that's pretty incredible. But I had 0 money, and I was working, you know, waitress job, whatever job I could get that would allow me to get my weekends off so I could still chase my dream, and then drive 300 miles for $25 and a handshake, you know, just so I could go out there and wrestle. And wasn't even that good at it, just to get better, you know, and eventually, I mean, obviously it paid off. I just kept climbing and getting better and making a name for myself. And fortunately for me at that time, there weren't a ton of girls out there, so I got noticed by different people fairly quickly, but even that road took me, you know, 4, almost 5 years to get signed. And then I realized what it took to be on the road. It's 200 days out of the year. Your home is an expensive hotel room that you stay in. And we see a lot of the world, but we see it out of plane windows and bus windows. So it's like, oh, you got to go to Paris. And I was like, yeah, but I saw the Eiffel Tower, but it was like for 5 minutes. Like, I ran out real quick so I could get a picture in front of it.
Mickie has wrestled all around the world and won multiple championships, but she wouldn't stop there. She had another passion to set her sights on: music.
So I played in the symphony for, I think, about 5 years is what I played. And then it wasn't cool. And I was dating my high school sweetheart at the time, and he was captain of the football team, and he was a wrestler. He was really good. He was very talented, very athletic. So I just stopped for whatever, and I kicked myself every day for that. And I started, as I was on the road so much when I first started on the road with WWE, I was writing a lot because we spend so much time in the cars. Like, we don't travel on buses when we're in the United States. We'd get our rental cars, we'd get in the town, we'd get our rental cars, we'd go to the shows, we'd drive to the next town, 300 miles, however long it is. And I found myself like just creatively writing to songs that were on the radio, or I would turn the radio off and just start writing songs in my head. And I just was thinking, the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what, I've always wanted to sing, but it was something that I was terrified to do because I didn't think I was any good at it. But I was like, you know what, I've written this, like, a couple of songs here. I was like, I'm just gonna go to Nashville and record them, 3 songs, whatever, like, just pick the best 3, if they're even worthy, and just kind of see. And then I met my first producer, Kent Wells, and he plays the guitar for Dolly Parton. And he was the one producer who really believed in me. And he pretty much told me, he's like, you know what, Mickie, you have such a unique sound, and you've written this stuff, and this is pretty powerful stuff. these couple of songs we could totally record, like these 3 out of like my collection of, 10 or 15 that I thought were halfway decent. And
Somebody's gonna pay for the way that you walked on me. Somebody's gonna pay for the way that you lied.
you just feel so vulnerable because you're putting your real heart and you're putting your feelings out there for people to judge and to love or not love or whatever. And it's a scary thing, but it's also very empowering when they do love or they sing along and they're super into it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Mickie knows how to work a crowd from both the music and wrestling worlds. And the one thing she's always appreciated from both is loyalty.
Wrestling fans are some of the most passionate fans, and you cannot change their mind. If they love you, they love you. If they hate you, they hate you. But they're also very loyal. I always find that our audience wants to see our characters, but I think the fans, especially in the States, like if you go to the Northeast, those fans are a lot different than if you go to, Georgia, or if we even come out to LA. It's like people stylistically like different things. For WrestleMania, that is our biggest show of the year, and people fly in from all over the world to come experience this. So when, we're at a stadium and you walk out and you just hear the eruption of it's just like this noise, and you can't even hear yourself think. It's just so loud. It's almost so loud and so consuming that then by the time you get into the ring, it's just you, if that makes sense. Where you don't hear the one person yelling in the front, hey, you suck. Because there's so many, and it's just like one noise, if that makes sense. It's wild. It's wild. I remember my first WrestleMania, which is the one that most people know me from, and because it was the first time that they had dedicated so much time to a female storyline, and it culminated at WrestleMania against my foe and my friend, but my foe at the time, Trish Stratus. I was supposed to be a bad guy in this situation, and the crowd completely flipped on us, and they were booing her and cheering me, and we were both like, what is happening right now? Like, this is crazy. And there was just this moment where I'm up on the top rope and she's going to do one of her moves, like a pretty famous move that she does all the time on me. And I reverse it and I take her leg and I jump from the top turnbuckle all the way to the floor with her, but hit her leg over the top rope as I go. And I remember turning around and doing this like, yes! I could hear the people erupting behind me, and I'm like, this is the most fantastic thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like, I'm just like, when I'm yesing, I'm legit yesing. Like, this is the greatest thing in life right now. It was pretty magical. It was probably the greatest thing I've ever done, besides my son.